Okay. Welcome to your favorite teacher's favorite teacher podcast, where we delve into the inspiring stories of educators. We interview those in the education profession to discover which teachers left a lasting impact on their lives and propelled them to embrace the noble profession that all other professions are born from. I'm your host, Mr. Stubblefield, guiding you through this journey of inspiration. We'll explore the day-to-day realities of being an educator, shedding light on the triumphs and challenges that shape the classroom experience. Join us as we uncover what it takes to be the favorite teacher of your favorite teacher. Okay. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of your favorite teacher's favorite teacher. Now, we have today as our special guest a fantastic AP on my campus, Ms. Beek. She does some amazing things, and sitting down and talking to her, I just had to have her on the podcast because her insight is amazing into education. But that's enough. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Why don't you tell our audience who you are?
Okay. Well, first, Mr. Stubblefield, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me all those accolades and positive comments. I don't know if I am all that, but I appreciate
You
that.
are.
Well, first, I don't know if this is the place where I start off telling all of my all about me, but I will.
Just give them a brief
A brief. Okay.
thing. We'll get into that one.
Okay. So briefly, this is my second career.
Okay.
Education is my second career. I decided to go into education after being at home with my kids for a while. And so as I started as a substitute teacher.
Okay.
I was substituted for about 3 years. And the agreement was that between me and my husband is that I wouldn't take more than 3 days per week for a sub job. But I got to love the kids and being around the kids so much that I decided to take a lot of long-term positions. And then with the long-term positions, I needed to have more input on what we were teaching or how we were teaching it, and
Right.
not just the sub. Here's your lesson, go teach it, and do great things. I wanted to have more input, so I decided to teach full time. I started teaching full time at a Title I school.
Oh,
And so that was the beginning. I taught math, which was a tested subject for STAR. So of course, some see it as a lot of pressure. I saw it as just another challenge to help my kids show the state what they knew. And then after that, I decided to get my master's in educational leadership because I wanted to get my hands on a larger amount, of
Yeah.
kids instead of that 150, 180 kids that you
Right.
typically had. I needed a larger group. And so I continued to teach math and then moved into administration. And so I've been an AP now since 2014, 15, since
wow.
2015. So
Wow.
I've been an AP on 3 different campuses. And so now I'm just looking to take on the next level and having a campus of my own.
Yeah. And like we talk about, you're gonna do fantastic when you get your campus. So this part of the podcast, we are going to talk about the journey. So what the journey is you're going to tell the audience about all of your trials and tribulations that you went through from you said you started out as a homemaker, then a substitute, and then becoming a math teacher, and then a admin. So talk about the that journey that you took on that level coming through.
Okay. Okay. So I think before I explain my journey, I have to explain my why, because my why really sets up my journey, or why I chose stages of the journey to tackle. But I was a probation officer for Harris County adult probation. stayed at home with my kids for a few years, and then decided to go back into not corporate, but into the working world. But realized that my why was that Frederick Douglass quote. It's easier to build strong children than to repair a broken man. And I
Right.
realized, okay, well, hold on. I need to help people not end up on that side of the desk. And so I decided to, education was the route to go. So I decided to go into substitute teaching, and I substituted predominantly at one school. And I got to know the kids and got really close with the kids. And so, um, some difficulties that I ran into as a sub is when you come on campus, um, you're just a babysitter in some people's eyes. And
Right.
that's not what I thought I was. I thought I was there to actually teach students math, because math teachers are hard to find when it comes to substitute. And so when I was on campus, I noticed that teachers would just give me the lesson plan, um, and I would do some digging before kids came to my class to look at the lesson plan, and whether it was just a worksheet for busy work or
Mm-hmm.
was there actual lesson that I could teach. I found that I wanted to do a lot of the teaching and be engaged with students, not just give them a worksheet to complete in that allotted hour or that period. And so then I started to agree to take long term positions because you had more of some more input in long term sub positions. But I still found that my voice during our planning time was not heard,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't carry the degree. I didn't
Right.
carry all the certificates, and so I was not. I don't know if I wasn't taken seriously or if they thought they were just helping me by giving me the lessons, um, and that wasn't helping the students. And
Yeah.
so, um, then I went back, got my alternative certification. That same school, the principal hired me on the spot, didn't interview or anything, and I became an eighth grade math teacher. And so, learning that that was a star tested subject and how stress that caused some people, um, I took it as a challenge. A lot of the kids at the school I was at, did not do so well on the state assessment.
Right.
And so we just threw out kind of like we didn't even talk about star tax, whatever it was. We didn't talk about it during class. We just talked.
Right.
And from teaching, when we came together, when we got our results, my first year of being a full time teacher, one of the senior teachers said, "Well, you need to get together your students who have to go to summer school." And I was like, "I don't. What does that mean?" And she said, "Well, kids who failed twice have to go to summer school." And I was like, "But none of my kids failed," and that just amazed everyone. But also, it kind of made some people a little irritated
Right.
with me being a first year teacher and none of my kids failing. But I took it as a challenge to kind of help bring everyone together
Mm-hmm.
to talk about the curriculum and talk about how we were teaching kids. Um, and that it wasn't all about teaching, it was actually about building the relationships with students. And so, from building the relationships with the students, that's where I've gotten, I guess, all of my, I don't want to say winnings, but um, the kids do well when they'll knock down a wall for you
Right.
if you just get to know them. It's not about the content. It's not about how smart I am. It's not about how many degrees I have. It's about how much do I want to learn about that child.
Right. That's a friend of mine. We were talking about something that you brought up earlier, and it's sad to hear that you have teachers who feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not envious, but they resent you because you were successful with the students. Because one of the biggest things that I found with very successful teachers is that when you give of yourself and you're willing to help others and it's not about you, but it's about the student, then those teachers tend to be the more successful ones. And to actually hear you say that there were teachers there that got upset about the fact that you were successful with your students, that goes to show that those teachers, and we don't have to say any names of who those teachers
Mm-hmm.
were, but those teachers were in it for themselves, not for the students. And that's a sad state of education. I cannot uh, stress that enough. For anybody out there in podcast land that is listening to this or watching this video, understand that education is like a thankless thing. You don't get into this for the glory or to get recognition, but to improve our future because the kids are our future. So that was a fantastic journey that you took us on. But you didn't tell us about that portion of it in becoming an assistant principal. You talked up to the part where you were a teacher, and I heard you say earlier that you've been an AP since 2014.
Yes.
2014. So like it's 2023 right now. So that's
Right. 2015.
2015.
Get my numbers right. Yes.
I mean
2015.
that is still some time because I've come into education into 2015 in 2015. So like that's a while. So can you talk to the audience about like you becoming an AP? What's it like as an AP? And I say you said earlier that you worked in a Title I district. Were you an AP in the Title I district?
I was a teacher and
Okay.
taught at a Title I
Okay.
school. So, so you want to talk about becoming the AP or actually now doing the work?
Both. I mean, I'm sure. And the thing is like we want not only teachers and principals who may be watching this to understand what it's like in your shoes, but also the community because the your teacher's favorite teacher podcast is about making sure that the community understands what's going on inside of the school. They got a dose of it when
Mm-hmm.
that COVID hit, but like they don't know the ins and outs of what it's like to be a teacher, to be an instructional coach, to be an AP, to be somebody working at district. So
Okay.
the to paint that picture for the people in the community to understand what it is that you went through to get to this point and what you're going through right now.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to why I wanted to become an AP, right?
Right.
So again, you're a teacher. You have 6, 7, however many periods of 30 kids, 180 kids. I don't know, but I wanted to be an influence to more kids than just 7 periods worth, or like a full class. If I could influence a whole school, that'd be great, or even the whole district. I remember thinking back to my AP. I can say Mr. McDougal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's still around, but Mr. McDougal, Mr. Emerson were my principals, and I can still think about how much care they gave me and how much they interacted with me that I wanted to be the same type of influence. But becoming that AP was not as easy as I thought it would be. First of all, you have to go through the interview process. Whether it's a pool, then you have to interview with a group to make sure you're the right fit, which doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But when you join an admin team, the fit is the most important thing.
Very important.
Because if we're all the same, then we're not giving the kids what they need.
Right.
We need to bring different tools, different attributes to the table, and so I had to interview with a few groups before I actually got accepted to one team, and I learned a lot from that team. I learned what to do. I learned what not to do.
Right.
And I think when I was a new AP, I was very scared to be as vocal because I didn't think I had as much experience or knowledge as others.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've come to realize is that my experience and my knowledge comes from me being a student and having interaction with my AP and principal and talking about what I felt when I was that age, or talking about what other parents might feel If we're dealing with discipline, if we're dealing with a teacher coming to giving the admin team a different perspective.
Right.
And that's what I've been I've focused on, is making sure that we always understand the perspective of other parents, the teacher, and that everyone's voice is heard. So I think I'm answering your question, but I think I'm kind of dancing around.
Are. You're good.
But my biggest thing I struggle with is trying to make sure that everyone is heard and everyone is represented in the right way, and that I don't make any knee jerk decisions. That
Right.
everything is thought through, and that I'm able to work with my team to make sure we make the best decision for our campus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and working with you, that is something that you definitely do. You work with everybody on the campus to make sure that the needs of the students are met. You do a great job at that. So we've talked about the journey. Now we're going to move into the next portion of the podcast, the portion that I like to call the yin and the yang. So the yin and the yang is, we have our good days as educators and we have our bad days as educators. And you're in a very unique spot because you did it as a sub, you've done it as a teacher, you're doing it as an AP. So let's talk about one of those days that you had in either one of those positions where you're like, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this, and juxtapose that to one of those days. It's like, you know what? This is why I'm here. This is why I'm doing this. So, can you share with the audience today about that yin and yang of being an educator?
I feel like it's like a yin, a yang, and then another yin and yang, and then another yin and yang. Like there's not just one. But I'll talk about first as a teacher. Um, which one? Yin is the good one?
I don't know.
Have you been asked that?
No, you're the first one that asked it.
Of course. Okay.
It's
Okay.
I don't think that
So-
it's a good or a bad thing. It's just like you have two sides of a coin.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So, first experience as a teacher, like I just told you about all students being successful on a state assessment, which to me, state assessment, that's the least of my worries. We're going to teach. I remember a little girl coming up to me after the test, and she was just like so happy. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I saw her results, they weren't the highest.
Right.
But she was thrilled. She was like, I've never passed a math state assessment, and this is the first time. And the expression on her face, like, I was like, wow. It touched my heart. So that was the kickoff of, this is my first year. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. This is the why, to make sure I build strong adults, strong children,
Right.
And help them get to wherever they want to go. And so, as as a teacher, like there's a lot. There's a lot, I guess, the yang, but sometimes it can be really hard. I can't put my hand on one, but it can be really hard when sometimes you're dealing with adults.
Right.
Because our focus is the kid, or the children, and it's easy to, sometimes kids have a bad day, and you can, next day they come and you can talk to them on the side, like, hey, today's a new day, and you can get them motivated to do their best, or give them knowledge they didn't have before they enter your class. But sometimes adults come in with their experiences that they had growing up in the classroom with a teacher, and sometimes that experience is not positive, and sometimes you can tell it brings out a negative feeling from the parent, from the teacher,
Right.
and the exchange that they want to have with you, or the dialogue they want to have with you, is not a positive one. And sometimes that can be a little stressful. I feel like where we are in society today, we need to bridge that gap.
Right.
We need to stop, press pause, We're going to keep teaching, press pause, and we need to bring parents and teachers in to the table, and let's sit down and talk about how we're going to do this thing called education.
Exactly.
The new way.
Exactly.
Not what we did 20 years ago, because obviously sometimes it's not really working.
Right.
And so I think we need to rebuild that relationship, because as a AP, that's where it's been a little more difficult. I can say, as far as if it's just a child, seeing a child get arrested, that got me. That was my, like, why am I doing this? I can't do this anymore.
Right.
But then when you see kids that have graduated and you see them out in the grocery store and they're like, Mrs. Beek, and they still remember you, or they talk about your class and they're so excited to talk to you. That's like, this is why I do what I do. Like,
Exactly.
you've made a positive influence on someone or someone's, and they still remember you, and
yes.
they still talk about, your class. And, but so I enjoy that part. But I do think where we are now is we need to fix some social constraints we have with adults. Because I can say recently, having a parent yell and scream at me is just not what you expect.
Well, it's uncalled for
as a professional.
It's definitely uncalled for.
But I understand frustration, because that's their baby. They love them. I get that part.
Right.
But professionally, we need to set an example for our kids of this is how we interact with each other.
Yes.
And the reason we interact is because we have a common goal, and that's to make sure you're successful.
Exactly. So. Right, and it's that interaction that those parents have with you, like you said, it still teaches the students how they are supposed to interact in public and with other people. So that's huge in itself. You bring up some fantastic points. Those are great points about getting the teachers as well as the parents together to have those conversations, because I mean, even if you look at our campus, our kids perform extremely well, especially compared to the Title I schools that I've worked at before. But I'm seeing this influx of students not knowing how to behave in public, and uh, that in itself is where the parents and the teachers should be meeting, and administration should be meeting to make sure that that's happening. So if we can ever get that round table going, I hope we get a bunch of teachers and parents together to make that happen.
Well, the day I have my campus, we're having that night that meeting once every grading period at night and during the day for those who work during the day.
Exactly.
And are available are available in the day instead of night. But we will be having those sessions.
And that's why I say you're going to do fantastic when you get your campus. So now we come to the namesake of the podcast, your favorite teacher's favorite teacher. So on this part, all we want you to do is just tell the audience about who may have influenced you as a teacher coming up, somebody that may have affected you in a positive way, and said, you know what, I'm somebody. I can make something of myself because this person believed in me or said that one thing to me. And just share with our audience who that person might be and why.
I don't think I can.
Really? Nobody in your life?
I can't do one.
Well, you have. Okay. All right. This is what we'll do. This is what we'll do. Go ahead and give us a few of them, and we'll edit to whichever one you think is the best.
No.
If it's multiple ones, we'll leave. If you think all of them are good, we'll leave them all in. So, how's that?
I'm gonna do coaches and I'm gonna do teachers.
Okay.
I was an athlete. I was a scholar, so scholar athlete. I had to do both.
Listen,
because some of my coaches were not my teachers.
Well, in the first two episodes, both of them talked about coaches, and they were my buddies, so they were our coaches. So coaches is cool too. Go
I'm gonna
ahead.
do coaches and teachers.
That sounds good. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with first my coaches. You have Coach Scarborough,
Okay.
who coached basketball. You have Coach Reese, who coached volleyball. You have Coach Jarka, who did track.
Okay.
So that's my whole year, right? So they influenced me in different ways. Coach Jarka also did coached basketball, but these women taught me that whatever you want, you can have. You just have to work hard.
Right.
And at the same time, out of love, they're going to expect me to come to reach their expectations.
Right.
Not below that. If I'm telling you to come in and run an 8-minute mile on day one of practice, that's what I expect.
Mm-hmm.
If I expect you to shoot however many free throws at the end of practice, that's what I expect, because it transitions into the test. It transitions into the game. Right.
Right.
If I expect you to run a quarter, 4 quarters in a certain amount of time during practice, that's what I expect. They were so hard on me in practice that game time was nothing.
Exactly.
So that's a test, right?
Exactly.
Those women taught me that it was all out of love, and they were hard on me out of love. So, hands down, those people
Those
will be
coaches.
included in this podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. We gotta keep them in there.
The next one, I would say, and this is probably going to be odd for some people because I'm a math teacher.
Math. Right.
But had a history teacher at Kempner High School, Miss Graves.
Okay.
She knew her stuff. She knew her content. You were going to like it. You're going to love what she loved. And she meant business.
Okay.
You're coming in here to learn. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to give you all the information you need. But you're going to see that she's as passionate about the content as you would expect any teacher to be. Like, and some teachers are not as passionate. I mean, I'm just gonna be real. They're
you're right. You're right.
Her passion then, I remember just watching her and like me not really liking history. I was like, wow, she really likes history. Like, she is all in. So she was another one. She meant business. But again, everything was out of love. But she was firm but fair.
Right.
So
right.
I would say, and I'm gonna kick myself because when I walk out, I know it's gonna be one more person, but those people really influenced me. Now, I never thought I would have taught. Never.
Really.
Ever. But I like building people up. I like working with people. I like bringing a team together.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I played sports. It's all about having one goal. You have one goal, but all of us play on this team in different roles. And when we come together, we can do great things together.
Yeah.
I don't win by myself. We work together. You're in a different department, but we win together. If I win, you win. So
exactly.
That's what I love about us working together in education.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like full circle. You talked about how you had teachers and coaches that were firm and fair and passionate. The one thing I did not hear you say in that was, oh, my teacher wanted to be my best friend. This teacher was so nice. And so it's what a lot of people fail to understand is when you are passionate and you show the students that you care about them, you may be the hardest teacher that there is out there. But when you're passionate, you show that you care, and apparently the coaches gave you your why, then what that does for the student is that makes them remember them. I was interviewing my buddy a while back, and he was telling me about his teacher from 38 years ago that he still remembers today because she set these rules and regulations in place for him. She wasn't like nice to him, She just gave him guidance and direction and memorable. So
But
here it is for you too.
that's
It's
it. Understanding what that young man wanted to do and giving him guidance or
mm-hmm.
direction. Not telling them you have to do A, B, and C.
Right.
But engaging with them and finding a connection to understand what that child's about.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that that's important because I love math does not mean that every
Exactly.
kid in my class is going to love math.
Right.
But I can figure out how math plays a part, what part that math plays in their goal.
Right.
And then build on that. But yeah, it's really important to understand the child, be able to give them guidance and direction without creating boundaries that they have to only work within.
Yeah.
Color inside the lines because I told you so.
Right.
But they have to understand the why too behind all of that.
Right. Right. That's and that's great. So at this point, we're going to transition into the last part of the podcast, the part that I like to call word or phrase. And it's an educational word that a word or phrase that pertains to education today. And I try to, in knowing the people that I have on the couch, I try to gear that word or phrase towards something that either we've had a conversation about or that I know that the person is passionate about. And this word for you is collaboration. Because I know, what was that acronym that you came up with?
I got you.
I got you.
I got you. Intentional growth of team unity. Intentional growth of team unity.
And I know like collaboration with you is a big thing because even you talked about it earlier. When you were becoming an AP, you had to get into the right fit. You understand that working together as a team, collaborating parents and teachers together, that is how you're able to make students successful. So, I mean, I guess the theme of this whole podcast today ended up being collaboration because everything that we talked about today deals with that. So, what I'd like you to do is talk to our audience today about your thoughts and your feelings about collaboration in the education world.
Wow. Okay. So, without collaboration, we are doing our children injustice. Whether it's collaborating with the parent, collaborating with the AP, collaborating with the teacher, it takes all of us together to set a strong foundation for those children.
Yes.
Right. But the thing is, we have to understand that everyone's coming from a different place.
So true.
So everyone has a different understanding of a number of concepts. But with that, together we're stronger. When we're sitting at the table, and I'm thinking of all of the salaries that are around the table, it's priceless.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're rich. We're rich in knowledge.
We are.
Everyone has an idea, and if you put that idea on the table and we morph it in, like it's going to become the perfect vase, to hold our flowers for everyone. It's great to work together. And when you're working in the trenches, you being from the military, you work in the trenches together, your win means so much more than winning by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't win a game by myself. I mean, there's some sports that they are individual sports, but you still have a team that you're practicing against. You still have a team that you're collaborating with. You still have a coach that you're talking to. But so going through those things and working together is what our society and our community should be about. That's why we're a community, right? We're a community because we work together to make sure our world is what it should be. When we're working isolated, we're not doing our best work.
Mm-mm.
We might be doing good work, but we're not doing our best work. And so for me, I think my ideas are great. But then when I hear my partner's idea, I'm like, if we just do both of them, like, we're doing great. We're going to do great things. And so it's just being able to put down some of your pride and thinking that you are right and the only one that has anything to bring to the table, and accepting other people and hearing them out and hearing their voice, and making sure they feel heard. Because when they feel heard and they feel a part of the journey or a part of the task, they're going to do more work and they're going to do better work, because they know that they always are going to be considered in the solution.
Right.
If you're a part of the solution, of course you want to continue to do great things, right? If I'm not a part of the solution, why do you need me?
Yeah, people feel like left out. All of y'all succeeding without me.
Or
those teachers that you had all of your students pass, and they're like, oh, my students didn't pass.
Well,
well, and the thing is like you said earlier, when you were a substitute, you had input that you wanted to put in there, and apparently your input most likely would have helped them succeed, because once you got into the classroom, it worked for you. So, and that's definitely something for all the people out there in podcast land to take note of. Working together as a team, like Miss Beek said, is what's going to help you guys succeed. Because you alluded to it earlier with my military service. It's we cannot make it on our own. We'll be able to win a couple of battles, but we will never win the war if we're doing this in isolation, solitude.
Yep. It's we over me.
We over me.
We over me.
I got you.
I got you. Intentional growth of team unity. Be intentional with your time. Be intentional that you're trying to grow each other, and be intentional that you are working together.
Awesome. That's great.
It's not, I got you. I'm not looking to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking to do that.
Look, I work with you. I know that you trying to pull me down and make sure I fail.
Hey, if you win, I win. So
that is true. That is so true.
Yeah.
And nobody embodies that more than you. And that's why I'm excited to have you here on the podcast. So as we close out this podcast today, I like to turn it over to the guests to have any closing words, and let the people in the audience know where they can find you. What's your Instagram? What's your Twitter? Blah 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 blah.
Wow.
You know, all of that good.
And
you give it to me. I'm gonna put it on your card as well when we post this up as well. But give the people in podcast land some final words and where they can find you.
See, this is why we need each other, because I hadn't even thought of the social media aspect. K Beek, so KBEEK 96, year I was married, at I don't know, Instagram. I'm KBeek96 on everything. So I don't know.
So there you go. KBeek96 on everything.
Everything. And so I want to know from you though.
What's that?
Your favorite teacher.
Oh, so I'll share this. I'm gonna end up cutting it because I want to. My goal is to do this episode of me at the very end when I transition from doing the podcast.
Tell me why. Don't tell me the person.
Okay.
Tell me why.
So why? It's exactly like you. This person was firm with me. Like, if you met me as a child, if I was one of the students on your campus, you would have known me, because I would have constantly been in your office, because I was in the office all the time. But this teacher actually saw something in me, and he said something to me one day, and that to me was why he was my favorite teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
What, do you want to leave
well,
any parting words with these people?
I don't know if it's an important word or words, or if I really I want you to hit me up on social media, because I want to answer. So I got you. IGOTU. Intentional growth of team unity. If you look me up on Instagram, Twitter maybe. Instagram is where I am. KBeek96. I need your input on how we intentionally grow the unity between our education, and our community.
Right.
How do we bridge that gap? I just want to know what I can do from the people out there doing the work in the community.
Right.
Like, I want to hear from the teachers. I want to hear from our parents. What do you think we should do, and how should we be intentional to grow that unity and become one unit, a better unit
Yes.
for our kids?
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
And that's how we're going to succeed. And so that wraps up the podcast. Thank you for taking the time. Now. You dropped that mic. You dropped that mic. Nah, okay. It's all good. But you had some fantastic mic drop moments in here. And I truly enjoyed having you on the podcast today. So thank you so much. And with that, we out.
Thank you.
Peace. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Your Favorite Teacher's Favorite Teacher podcast. If you have a story you'd like to share, please contact me at wdstubblefield@wdsi.us. Again, that is wdstubblefield@wdsi.us. And you could be our next inspirational story of how educators impact our lives. I'm your host, Mr. Stubblefield, and I want you to remember, no profession is possible without your favorite teacher.